welcome back to the channel. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jordan Fitzgerald, aka Fitzy, the founder of a company called Warfighter Athletic. What makes up my experience is over a decade worth of service in the army, broken up into time spent in the infantry, deploying to Afghanistan, and then finishing up the second half of my career in special operations. Today's topic, we are covering navigation and navigational aids and tools. Before we hook into it, I want to state why this is super important. Our good mate from the NZ Survival Academy, Ash, he's wrote a couple of blogs for us, and he's going to be writing some more blogs for us moving forward. He's put it the best, which is a survival situation comes from a 1 to 2 situations, scenarios where things have just gone wrong, and before you know it, those 1 to 2 situations end up turning into what we call an epic or a survival situation. Okay, and he sums it up nicely by putting it into words, which is that a survival situation is a person being in a place at a time they did not expect. Okay, and so again, you can be the most experienced soldier, operator, sailor, airman, marine, hunter, mountaineer, hiking enthusiast, whatever you are, and again, whether your timing's out, whether you get injured, whether you get navigationally embarrassed, a survival situation occurs when you're at a place at a time that you did not expect, and that's the best way to put it. The second piece of information before we just crack straight into the tools of what we're going to be looking at today is, again, Ash has referenced a study that has been done in North America, and it's commonly found that recovery and survival situations or recovery operations are being conducted usually within 20 kilometers of a populated area. Okay, so again, it doesn't have to be this big remote location and you're in the backcountry and you've been choppered in and now you're lost. It's probably you've driven somewhere, you haven't got the right navigational aids, tools, and experience, and again, you've thought you're going to follow a track, you get off track, you now can't find the track again, and you're geographically embarrassed. Okay, so a real common theme with anything in the military is one is none. That's kind of just how we roll. We roll with the concept of one is none. Obviously, you can't carry two of everything, but when it comes to what we call mission critical equipment, when we're looking at technology, when we're looking at communications, one is none. So you always need to have a backup, an alternate, and some contingency and some emergency, aka a PACE plan. Okay, so you've got your primary source of communications. This is in a military context. You've got your alternate source of communications. You've got contingency planning, and then you've also got emergency communications. What that can look like is primary can be radio, can be cell phone. Alternative, again, if say you're on radio communications using secured networks and secure military radios, again, your alternative could be, say for example, a secure app that you are utilizing to communicate. Contingency planning could, again, it could be another layer of communication, could be email, could be, depending on the type of operations that you're doing, it could be physical, it could be a runner, okay? It could be literally going, okay, cool, here's the message, go take it to that platoon over there. And then emergency communications, that could be, in this context here that we're talking about, your emergency could be a beacon of some kind, which is essentially setting off that everything's gone wrong and that you need rescue or recovery, whether that's a QRF force coming out to you or whether that's a Westpac helicopter coming out and saving and securing you. Okay team, let's get into it. So when I go out into the backcountry, my primary source of navigation is actually done on my phone, and if we apply the concept we just spoke about before, we need to make sure that we've got contingency planning. And so for me, I always take a very large battery pack. I think it's a 20K battery pack. Before I go out, I always make sure that it is charged up and good to go. The best app that I have found so far is called NZ Topo Maps, and for me that is just the easiest tool to use, and it is just so user-friendly, it's kind of hard to muck it up. In saying that, you still need a sound understanding of relating what we call map to ground, okay? So inside NZ Topo 50, you can get the North Island and the South Island. If you are not in New Zealand, you can just go get the same map, which is the Topo map. I'll put a link here, or I'll put a picture here so you guys can see exactly what app I'm talking about, and we'll make sure that you know exactly what app to go and download. But again, there's more than one navigational app out there. The most important thing for an app when you are using a kind of navigation app is making sure they have offline maps, okay? If you don't have mobile data, which when you are in the backcountry is highly likely, you need to ensure that it has offline maps and offline navigation. That is going to ensure that when you don't have, again, a good example is, can you put your phone on flight mode and will the navigation app still work and function as it is meant to? That's a really important check to conduct before you deploy, before you infill into the area that you're going. Okay, so that app there is awesome. You can set waypoints, you can set pins, you can do what I recommend anybody does before setting out into the backcountry, which is which is getting on the phone, getting on maps, getting on Google Earth before you deploy, and doing a recce of the area via map before you go. And it's just being aware of key features, key reference points, okay? So when you're out there, you know, yep, this is the route we're gonna take. It's gonna take us up the ridge. I know down off the ridge is a river that's flowing north to south. Again, it's just one of those reference points that you can use as you're moving through the terrain to do nav checks to make sure you're moving in the intended direction, okay? Another one is going, okay, cool, I know if I'm moving up in this direction, the beach should be on our left. Again, it may sound silly, but if you're, say, moving in bush, tight vegetation, it can be uncannily easy to start heading in the complete opposite direction without even knowing it. And again, say you know the beach is on your left, then you can expect to just stop, do a quick nav check. Are we heading in the right direction? I can hear the beach out to the left. We are heading in the right direction. Now, this actually comes from experience. We were on a competition between units within the Army, and it's called a skill at arms competition. And within that, again, I remember looking at the map before we set off. Section commander, top bloke. This is not a dig at you, brother. Top bloke, top section commander. No one else wanted to grip up the skill at arms team. He gripped it up. Was a great leader. But we were tired. It was the middle of the night. We'd already been putting out all day. And I remember before we took off, I remember the beach was meant to be on our right. And then again, as we were walking and we stopped, I could hear the beach on our left. And I knew that we had been heading a long, long way in the very wrong direction. Okay, so it is very easy to do. Easier than you think. Okay, so that pretty much sums it up, team. App, get on to the App Store, take a look on there. You will find, again, if you're in New Zealand, you'll find the NZ Topo 50 apps, and if you're not in New Zealand, you will find the equivalent version for your country, highly likely. It's a great app, it's a great tool. Again, key point to remember, you must understand map to ground. You must be able to relate the map to ground. Where you are on the map, where the phone says you are on the map, is that actually where you are? Again, if you are in New Zealand, for example, when you are in the backcountry, you can literally just be in the Ruahinis and you're in these tight little valleys. We have quite steep terrain here. And when you're in those areas, the GPS can definitely be off, and it can be one of those things where, again, it can say 50 to 100 meters, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the bush, in the scrub, in tight vegetation, and in the steep terrain, 50 to 100 meters can be a fair distance. So again, make sure that you spend time when you're out there. Again, go out there, pull up the app, open it up, have a look at where it says you are, and you can do this at home. You can go to a park, you can go to something close to your home, and just go for a walk, pull out the app, and just look at what the map is telling you the terrain looks like, and then relate that to the ground. Again, find those creeks, find those rivers, find those re-entrants, understand the ridge lines, the spurs, and try identify it on the map within the contour lines. Okay, always have a backup. So for me, primary source of navigation is obviously on my phone using the NZ Topo 50 apps. So that brings me to what I always carry in my chest rig when I'm out in the hills now, and that is my Garmin GPS. Okay, so this is a Garmin InReach. Again, a great tool, comes at a significantly higher price point than the app. The good thing about the Garmin InReach, which comes in, I think, at about 500 to 600 NZD. Again, I'll check that and I'll put a conversion price up here for USD, but it comes with navigation and it also comes with satellite communications. So that means that I can be in an area that has no cell phone coverage. I can make, as long as this can see the sky, as long as it can connect and has clear line of sight through to a satellite, then I can communicate out essentially via Iridium, I think it is, via the Iridium network, back to loved ones, just to let them know. Okay, again, it's a great tool to have because it enables you to message back out to loved ones, and it also attaches, and can attach if you select it to, location information. That means if they don't hear from you for a period of time, they can go back in to the message where they last heard from you, get your location information, and then when they do contact search and rescue, they can send your last known location, which is a really good start point for search and rescue, to be able to come out and get a good result with the recovery operation, and saves time. Okay, so again, great tool to have, gives you peace of mind, gives your family peace of mind, especially when you're going into areas that don't have cell phone coverage. The great thing about the Garmin InReach as well is you can use it via app. Again, this is why I take the battery bank, because it is just easier to open up the app on my phone and then send a message as if it is a text message, or say you're having a bad weather day and it's absolutely hissing outside the hut or the tent or wherever you're hitched up. You can just chuck this bad boy outside, make sure that it's got line of sight to the sky, and you can crawl back in your little tent and send a message from your phone. The creature comforts. Last but not least, team, it is again very important to understand map to ground, and it's also important to have an understanding of how to use the old-fashioned map. Okay, it's a topic in its own, and it's an entirely new skill set on its own. Getting familiar with the app, highly recommend it. Same thing, if you get yourself a Garmin or a Garmin InReach, just play with it. Sit there with a cup of tea or a coffee and just sit there and get used to using the app, to using the Garmin InReach, understanding how to use the messaging, understand and making sure that your location information is being sent when you are sending a message to loved ones, and making sure you have your loved ones' details saved, or whoever your primary next of kin is, or whoever your primary contact is, making sure they're already saved in your Garmin. Again, made super simple by the apps that come with Garmin. We will do a completely separate video on navigation using map and compass, and we will also cover how to do an NDS or a navigational data sheet. I'm going to have someone in to help with that, and the reality is I am the founder of Warfighter Athletic, and I run this company every single day. Okay, I'm not the face, I'm not an ambassador, I'm not the influencer. I actually run day-to-day operations, and navigation, just like shooting, just like medical, just like any of those skills, there is a thing called skill fade, and there's a thing called currency. I understand what I'm current at, and I understand what I'm not current at. When it comes to navigation, there's definitely some skill fade, and so I have a cunning plan to have someone in, or we will actually be out in the field and we will do it, and we will go through how to navigate from A to B, how to do, or how to conduct, how to create a navigational data sheet. Again, just making sure that you have a few checkpoints along the way that help you stay on track, avoid you getting lost, and ending up in that survival situation. Any questions, queries, anything you'd like me to go further into detail or you'd like information on, let me know in the comments. Fitzy out.